Have you seen photos on social media of people with their children at quite frankly looking crazy classes where babies and adults actually are dressed in mad looking outfits? Maybe there's flashing lights, a disco ball, any other props that look like they belong at a rave or a festival? Then you have probably seen them attending a baby class that can also be known as sensory classes or baby development classes, music classes, any other different name with the same aim. So what on earth are these classes for? Who are they aimed at? And why should you maybe think about doing them? Well, if you're a bit of a geek like me and just super keen, then you don't need much explanation. Just looks really fun. But if you're a bit more skeptical, then this video is for you. I want to take a minute to explain what the actual and significant developmental benefits of these classes are. Let's start with what are sensory style baby classes. Well, aimed at parents and their babies, newborn up to around 3 years old, these are typically classes where a teacher will guide you, the parent or the carer, in how to interact with your baby. And they've carefully designed it to stimulate babies' various senses, 8 according to current theory, not just 5. Very often, but not always, there'll be a large portion of the class singing songs, using props like instruments or puppets and visual aids such as coloured scarves. Often the classes will involve other activities such as aspects of baby massage, sign language, tummy time, to name just a few. But why do these classes exist is probably the big question many new parents who have recently come across them might ask. Well, to understand that, we need to look at why is sensory stimulation important. So health professionals and parents often talk about milestones, baby rolling over, baby bringing their hand to their mouth, baby crawling or walking. But did you know how important and crucially linked our senses are to the development of our fine and gross motor skills, as well as language? So our brains receive information from our different senses from conception onwards. That helps us build a picture and make sense of not only our bodies, but the world around us. Whilst it's typically an unconscious process, the more positive sensory exposure we have, the better our bodily systems work together. That in turn leaves us feeling safe and secure to further explore, grow and learn. So a really good example of this, and I've talked about this in my videos before, is how the vestibular system is connected to language development. So firstly, what is the vestibular system for those of you that haven't come across this term? It is one of the 3 newer senses on the block, in addition to the 5 senses that most people know. So the vestibular system is located in our inner ear, and it contributes to balance and our sense of orientation and knowing where our bodies are in space, essentially. It's the system that's informing our brain about movement and position in relation to gravity. So for example, how does our brain compute and make sense of the world when we're hanging upside down, for example? The more input our brain receives in the early years from our vestibular system, the more neural pathways that are formed in the brain, so that as we grow, we can do things such as fix our eyes as we move, react in order to retain balance in certain situations. Think about a cartwheel and all the things our brains and bodies have to do to make sure we return to a standing position. So what's that got to do with language? I hear you, I'm getting to that. Well, fascinatingly, an underdeveloped vestibular system can be linked to language delays. Because it's linked to movement, the vestibular system plays a crucial part in motor development and motor planning, which includes the tongue, the lips, and the jaws, which are obviously all needed for speech production. So children with apraxia of speech, which is actually my own daughter in fact, or have oral motor challenges or articulation problems, are examples of children who may have challenges with their vestibular system that can also impact their postural control, their muscle tone, their motor coordination or motor planning. And in addition, the vestibular system is our orientating system. It literally tells us which way is up. And so when it dysfunctions, we can feel unsafe. This can impact our awareness of sound, our coping mechanisms for loud sounds, and our ability to receive and process auditory information. But that is just one example of many of how our babies' sensory systems are connected to their overall development. The essential takeaway is that the more sensory exposure our babies have, the more they can make sense of the world around them, feel secure, and go on to grow and develop. So how do these classes stimulate babies' senses? Well, firstly, it's definitely worth saying that whether you are in a class or not, everything can be a source for stimulating baby senses. So you're stimulating their sense of touch every time you hug, kiss, or stroke them. You're stimulating their hearing every time you talk to them or talk to your friend in front of them. They smell your body wash, they smell the dinner cooking, they smell the dog. You think you're just rocking your baby to sleep? Well, you're actually engaging their vestibular system. The point being, you absolutely do not need a class to stimulate sensory development, but a carefully planned class can of course offer further exposure, but also guidance as well as being fun for you and them. So what are some of the other benefits of attending baby classes? Well, first of all, and this was a big thing for me, you don't have to think. Do you sometimes sit at home and you're just not sure what you should be doing with your baby? Well, this is just a lovely hour where you don't have to think about it. That's what the class leader is for. It's also great for bonding. So spending that focused quality time with baby is great for bonding, and it also puts you more in tune with their wants and needs. And socializing. They are a great way to meet other parents or carers and get some adult conversation, share a worry or a laugh. And lastly, what are Wriggle and Roll baby classes? Well, Wriggle and Roll baby classes incorporate everything I have just talked about: sensory exposure, singing, bonding, activities, but with one very key difference. I have designed them so that you can follow along from the comfort of your own home. You might be wondering, well, why do I want to do a baby class at home? Well, in-person classes can be great fun, and I've done lots over the years, but for some, due to where they live or cost or just how hard it can be to be in a certain place or a certain time, it's just not an option. It also doesn't have to be either or. You can go to in-person classes, but do additional ones at home at a time that suits you. In my case, I gave birth to my second daughter right in the heart of the COVID pandemic. And at the time, Spain, where we live, was on a strict lockdown that didn't allow us to go outside for any reason other than food shopping. And I wanted to make sure that my daughter had all the sensory exposure and fun my oldest had had, so I set to doing it at home. Whilst I had an idea of sensory activities from the classes I'd taken with my oldest, I was really shocked at the lack of resources for anything new to follow along with online. There was lots of videos designed for my baby or toddler to sit and watch alone, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to entertain my baby, help in her development alongside her and to bond with her. So first of all, I studied and I did an online course in baby sensory development, and then I started giving these classes. So whilst we may not be on lockdown anymore, and hopefully never again, it got me thinking about all the people around the world who may not be able to attend an in-person class. And in addition, my classes do include parenting forums and live classes for that support and company as well. So if you want to check out what it's all about, check out some of my online classes here, and I also have online courses available on my website. Hope to be Wriggle and Rolling with you soon.